to CABA's quarterly CHC webinar meeting. My name is Marta Koptoska, and I'm the program or manager of programs and communications at CABA. I'll be emceeing the slides today, and I'd like to just mention to everyone that we are recording the meeting and the keynote, and we will be circulating it to those who are currently in attendance and for those who could not attend. And so with that, I will pass it on to Greg, who will go over the agenda today.
Thanks, Marta. So I'm Greg Walker. I'm the CEO of CABA, and I have a small agenda items today. But one of them is the agenda, which is right now, and we're doing a welcome and a call to order and introductions about the CHC from Ken Wax as the chair. Going through a little bit of administrative items where we're approving the past minutes of the previous CHC meeting, where anyone can get off mute and first and second that motion to get those minutes approved. And I'll be doing a brief update on where we are with our 2023 CHC landmark research project, where we're looking at smart home technology and market trends that we're working with Harbor Research. Next, we'll be doing there's a keynote presentation from Mike Bergman from the Consumer Technology Association, and he's looking at some of the national cybersecurity label for some of the connected consumer connected devices, and he's the VP of Technology and Standards at CTA, so Consumer Technology Association. Next will be Ken Wax will be talking a little bit about the CABA journal and some of the good entries that he himself has added to that journal recently. Marta will talk about our CABA podcast that we're doing on a quarterly basis, where people can volunteer to become hosts of the podcast or guests of the podcast. It's been fairly well received in the space so far. Ken will go over some new business, and I'll go over some brief announcements of some past events and upcoming events, and then there'll be an adjournment for the meeting. And when we send out the minutes on this meeting, you may notice that we're doing a rebranding. We just rebranded the organization, or made the decision to rebrand our organization. So the new name for CABA is going to be the Association for Smarter Homes and Buildings, pronounced ASHBE, and it's going to be officially live on Thursday this week. So when we send out the meeting and minutes and everything like that, while they still would have CABA content and materials going forward, we're going to be transitioning to our new brand and new logo as ASHBE. But nothing's official now. It'll be official on Thursday. With that, I'll pass it off to Ken to go over some a welcome and a call to order and a little bit about the CHC. Ken?
Thank you very much, Greg, and congratulations on moving CABA into the next phase under ASHBE. Welcome all to the Connected Home Council. I'm Ken Wax. I run a management consultancy that's been providing expertise in home and building systems and energy management for a few decades. More information, you can go to kenwax.com. But let's turn now to CHC. CHC, the Connected Home Council, was established in 2004. We initiate and review projects that relate to the connected home and multiple dwelling unit technologies and applications. We examine industry opportunities that can accelerate the adoption of new technologies, consumer electronics, and broadband services within the growing connected home market. We offer webinars and selected research topics to explore the industry shaping trends and forces and the use of technology to make connected homes more flexible, adaptable, and human-centric. I want to emphasize that all the work that we do is initiated by the members of CHC. That's all of you. Everyone contributes on a pro bono basis for the good of the industry, and we're always open to the ideas. That's why you'll see surveys when you logged into Zoom, you saw a survey. You're welcome to use the comment facilities within Zoom to propose additional topics under, you can do it under chat. You can send an email to Marta, to Greg, or to me at any time, or pick up the phone and call us and talk about your ideas for the Connected Home Council. So let's get to some administrative matters. We keep minutes of all our meetings. We'd like to have a formal approval of the minutes from the May 9th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of CHC meeting May 9th?
This is Chris Larry. I approve that motion.
Thank you very much, Chris, for making the motion. Any second for the motion, please?
David Katz seconds the motion.
Thank you, David. Marta, I assume you got the motion maker, so.
Yes, correct. Thank you, Ken.
If there are no objections, and I'll just pause for 5 seconds. Hearing no objections, then the motion is passed and the minutes are approved. See, we make administrative details as painless as possible here. We are on the lookout for vice chairs for the Connected Home Council. If anyone would like to volunteer, please contact Marta, Greg, or me, and we'll get you set up. And so you can bask in the honor of being one of the leaders of the Connected Home Council. I now turn to Greg to tell us about research being done at CABA in support of connected homes.
Thanks, Ken. So this is our 2022 landmark research project where we completed this year, and this one's on the smart home energy management systems, and it was a large project that was done through Harbor Research, and it's currently after the 4-month embargo period, it'll be available for sale for those that were unable to join the project. So the sale price is $4,900 if you want to get the full research project, but it's around $100,000 of research. But right now, it's currently under the embargo period for those just for the funding organizations. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is the 2023 landmark research project that we embarked on this year. A little bit different than previous years that instead of doing a larger written report in a PDF format, which was typically around 200 pages, we broke it down into a series of smaller research reports and focused. We're going to be focusing around PowerPoint slides and raw data, and have less time invested into the actual report writing component, and try to make it a little bit more cost effective, and try to get a little bit more actionable data and more reports coming out throughout the project. So this one went to an RFP a few months ago, and Harbor Research was eventually selected by the funder, the initial funders here, and it's going to look at an annual consumer survey, or a consumer survey of around 500 consumers around Canada and the US, looking at some key opportunities, their perspectives, buying behaviors and whatnot, providing a report with that as well. And then there'll be 2 individual configured research projects where we're allocating 100 hours of analyst time to do a deeper dive into certain topics that will be selected by the steering committee. Could be cybersecurity, it could be energy management, it could be access control or anything like that. But it's all going to be selected by the steering committee, and then they're going to release those reports as they come to completion. So the full research it's going to be around $50,000 or so, and it only goes to the funders of the research, where we're basically crowdfunding these projects. There's still opportunity to get involved if you want to join. It's $5,000 to join and get the full research project, and it's $10,000 if you want to be on the steering committee to help shake some of these a la carte configured research projects and shape the questions and the target audiences and of that annual consumer smart home survey. If you're interested, please contact myself at walker@caba.org or Marta as well. But there's still time to get involved, and we're probably going to be finalizing the methodology of the research in the next probably about 2 weeks time or so. So it's a good time to get involved. We've only had one steering committee meeting thus far. So with that, I guess I know that Charles couldn't make it to the call today, but I'll just introduce Mike Bergman. He's the Vice President of Technology and Standards at CTA, and he's going to give a talk on the cybersecurity label for consumer connected devices and beyond on the U.S. level. So with that, I'll pass it off to you, Mike. I know you want to share your screen. It has some slides,
Greg,
and there'll be an opportunity to do a Q&A at the end.
Greg, this is Ken Wax. I'd like to just interject before Mike begins. Just from a personal perspective, I've known Mike since he started at CTA for about, say, 15 years or so. He has certainly become the cybersecurity guru at CTA. He's involved within the standards committees that are dealing with cybersecurity issues. So I work closely with Mike because I'm active in the CTA standards committees. He's also the liaison to NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the United States. The NIST is recognized worldwide for cybersecurity expertise. I chair an international standards committee for ISO and IEC. We set the voluntary standards used to promote international trade, and we are allowed to cite documents produced by NIST on cybersecurity, so they're recognized worldwide. So it's great to have a national expert, Mike Bergman, in cybersecurity, who's been working with the world's leading organization in this field. Take it away, Mike.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken, for those very kind words, and Greg for the great introduction. It's my pleasure to meet everyone today virtually. I want to do a quick audio check. Is my audio coming through all right?
Just fine, Mike.
Great, thank you. So first of all, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time and patience through the minor glitch there. I'm Mike Bergman, Vice President of Technology and Standards for the Consumer Technology Association. You know us best for the Consumer Electronics Show, most likely. I don't work for the show side of the house. I work closely with them 4 days a year when it's all hands on deck, and in the lead up, but most of the time I'm working on topics like this. Ken mentioned something about my being one of the folks at CTA that does cybersecurity. We also have a very strong policy group that works with Washington on cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, a variety of other topics. I'm certainly not the only game in town when it comes to cybersecurity at CTA. But this is my baby. I will talk about this. The National Cybersecurity Label for Consumer Connected Devices. We have been working on this now in various forms, growing it up from the original botnet studies ordered by the Trump administration 5 or 6 years ago. And we got to the point now where we now have the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark program officially launched last week, Tuesday of last week. We got great coverage on that. Over 400 organizations reported on this, including the Washington Post, The Verge, Messenger, Politico, and so on. All right. What is it? Let me start with a little bit of background. The motivation, this is a slide I presented in 2022, and it's just as valid now. Cyber attacks just keep growing. It's not a constant background. It is it's a tide that is rising. When you see numbers like 95% increase year on year, 641% increase, 97% increase. The word exponential growth is literally true. The US government is very concerned, not just on the behalf of the consumers, but on behalf of critical infrastructure. National security relies on us having not just tanks and planes, but also working power grids and clean water and food and transportation in the event of a crisis. Anyone who lived through 9/11 and tried to go from point A to point B in the week immediately after the 9/11 attack knows what the airlines were like at that time. So national security includes protection of critical infrastructure, and the folks who develop smart buildings and smart homes are deeply involved in that. I think this is probably not new to many of you. Now, most of the activity that we're seeing in terms of these DDoS attacks is powered by these hordes of hacked IoT devices, these botnets. And this gives us two aspects of this problem. First is, how do you protect buildings that include single IoT devices, which can be an entry point into these buildings or networks? And how do we stop these DDoS attacks that are powered by the ones that are already compromised? So what we're going to be doing is working on the new stuff first. We want to cut off the really bad product by establishing baseline requirements for new product. Now, this program was launched, as I said, a week ago. It's voluntary. It's got great support, however, from all the big brands and from some retailers. So I think you'll see penetration will be relatively quick compared to other voluntary programs. The White House has been driving this effort through the National Security Council. They're heavily relying on NIST to be the experts, and they're relying heavily on the private sector to be the experts on how to deploy a program. So NIST has the technical handle, and industry has both the technical aspect and also all the administrative details. How do you do? Well, I'll talk about some of those. FCC will administer the program. It will not be required by FCC. It will not be part of equipment authorization, but it will be run under their equipment authorization authority. For the FCC to do anything, they must have authority. And so they'll use their equipment authorization authority without making it a requirement in the equipment authorization process. The FCC will release an NPRM for program rules. We anticipate that. It's hard to tell the timing because the various commissioners only saw it a week ago, other than Chairwoman Rosenworcel's office. And they're going to negotiate a little bit on the details. We understand it to be a relatively short NPRM, maybe 25 pages or so. We know some of the questions that they'll be asking, which are the kinds of things you would expect the FCC to ask of the program administrator. They're not asking deep technical questions. The FCC is not currently positioning themselves to be the technical experts. They're going to be the administrator, and NIST and the industry will provide technical expertise. I mentioned that there's broad public-private support. Samsung, LG, Google, Amazon, the CSA Matter Trade Association, IRC, UL, there's an consumer reports, Carnegie Mellon University. There's an awful lot of people involved in this that are all pulling on the oars in the same direction. And when I say that, I mean not just the top line, but much of the detail involved. Finally, international coordination is strongly desired by all parties. That's very straightforward, but also I've personally been able to attend meetings with the EU, Canada, Japan, Israel, and there's a lot of discussion about how to take the complicated US workings, which involves FCC, State Department, NIST, DHS, I'm missing somebody, all negotiating with a structure in the EU. So we need to make sure that that is all clean and straight and understandable for our partners. But everyone does want international coordination so that you can qualify once in the United States and have that recognized in multiple countries, multiple territories. Or if you qualify for a different program, you can come here and have it recognized in the US for things like California's cybersecurity. This is a photo from the event. There were 3 different roundtables assembled here during this event using this stage. This is a beautiful stage broadcast facility thing at the Eisenhower Executive Office building that's part of the White House campus. Literally stand next door and throw a rock and hit the White House if you aren't afraid of the Secret Service, I guess. The reason I wanted to show this was to show Jen Easterly, the woman in the sort of leopard print. I'm not sure exactly what that was, on the left. Next to her in the red is Jessica Rosenworcel. So Jen Easterly, of course, is the director of CISA. FCC Chairman Jessica Rosenworcel. Next to her is the Deputy National Security Advisor, Ann Neuberger. And then next to her is the director of NIST, Lori Locascio. This is a powerhouse team of women running cybersecurity in Washington. You throw in Kat Megas, who works for Lori Locascio as head of the IoT cybersecurity program at NIST. And I have a picture of her standing with several of these women. You have 5 women in Washington driving a huge amount of civilian side, private sector side of the government support of our cybersecurity requirements. This is a pop-up trade show that we did at this event. This is also in the same building. It's a gorgeous room. It's called the Indian Treaty Room. But what I wanted to highlight was you can see logos here. Amazon showing product, LG showing product, Consumer Reports showing support, Google showing product, Logitech, Yale is in the background, a number of other companies. LG and Samsung showed up with washing machines and TVs. All of these products were there to demonstrate confidence in the cybersecurity work that they are already doing. So these are the organizations that believe that they are certification ready. When the FCC stands up the program rules, all of these organizations are fully aware of the cybersecurity requirements and program requirements expressed by NIST. And as long as the FCC rules don't go off the reservation too much, they're ready to certify that product. And they're very interested. They all made statements of support on stage. Also here was the Connectivity Standards Alliance, CSA, the Matter people, showing their support and saying that they had their certification program for CSA product security almost ready to go. That'll be standing up in a matter of months, a few of them. They expect a number of their companies, their member companies, to be certifying product through there because, in part, you've got companies like LG, Samsung, simply all part of CSA. IOXT Alliance was there. IOXT made a statement of support on stage and said that they have over 30 companies expressing readiness to get their product certified. So what's been going on? What's the message here? The message here is that over the past 5 years, maybe more, these brands have recognized the issue and they've been getting their cybersecurity house in order. Some of them are doing it longer. And the result is that they are ready for this program. The problem is now pivoting, the attention on the problem is now pivoting on smaller no-name brands or organizations that haven't gotten the message yet, which there are some. So what you're likely to see, I anticipate, is a lot of these organizations will be certifying a lot of them.
Mike, you're fading away.
Beg your pardon. A lot of these organizations will be certifying their product. They will be showing the mark on boxes and on websites, and you will start being able to make a distinction, and that is going to drive the market. All right, so what does the mark look like? Okay, so first of all, this is the market itself. This is the FCC's concept. We're actually probably going to comment a little bit on some details about this to make it easier to get onto a package, like narrowing up all that white space. But basically, this is the look and feel of it. I personally believe those squares in the center are chip pads, and the circles that they're attached to in 3 places are vias on a printed circuit board, but it's really mostly just an abstract design. So this is the new U.S. Cyber Trust Mark. The phrase U.S. Cyber Trust Mark, I believe, will be trademarked, and the mark itself is being registered with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. You can find this material on fcc.gov, cybersecurity certification mark. These slides will be available for this group afterwards, so you don't have to scramble to copy that link down. And anyone who wants to can email me. I'm happy to answer questions. My email will be at the end of the slide, end of the presentation. So how are we doing this? What's the plan of record? So number one, create a single common US mark. Hey, that's done. Okay, we got that done. Set criteria for use of the mark. That's actually done too, and I'll talk about that in a minute. License existing industry certification or label programs to issue the mark. That's folks like UL with their MCB 1376. That's folks like CSA Matter launching their new cybersecurity product requirements program. That's folks like IOXT who have an existing program. So there's a bunch of, oh, and then also I should mention walled garden approaches like Apple HomeKit, Samsung works with SmartThings, Comcast works with Xfinity Home. These programs have cybersecurity requirements also, and they're looking at gap analysis. What do they need to do to hit the criteria in the item 2?
Mike, you've mentioned a few acronyms like IOXT. Do you want to, we have an international audience, if you could explain it, please.
IOXT is the name of the alliance. They have hundreds of members, and it is a cybersecurity certification program for connected devices. Originally, the IOXT stood for the Internet of Secure Things, where the X was, I'm not sure. But now I believe they pretty much go by IOXT, and you can find them online at ioxtalliance.org, I think. But if you Google IOXT, you'll find it pretty quickly. Any others, Ken? I'll try to broaden my thinking to cover those details.
I assume our Canadian friends know what the FCC is, but that's it has different acronym in Canada.
It's CS, yeah.
Just on that, is this going to be raised to the ISO International? Because you know, we have things like CUL, but will we change the mark from CUS?
Well, David raises a very important question, Mike. I chair a committee of ISO and IC where we are doing cybersecurity standards. And I was pondering whether I should bring this at all to Geneva, or will they just say that's US-centric, not international?
I think the way to think about this is it is a US domestic program with ambitions of mutual recognition and harmonization. International standards are part of a bigger picture. When you have a technical standard, you also need the other components of accreditation and certification. All of that is available through IEC or ISO IEC. And we intend to leverage those programs, but they go inside a larger box that has more stuff in it. So yeah, there's going to be some negotiation about what aspects of this program are transportable internationally and what's the relationship to international standards, but it's not currently being proposed as an international standard. It's more of an administrative program that takes advantage of standards. Does that help?
We're not trying to raise the block edges. We want to just see how it would progress, especially when you market a product across borders. And you know, Samsung isn't made in. So anyway, I'll let you go on.
Yeah, no, this is a very important point for everyone. We use the term international harmonization to sort of capture the desire to meet the requirements in one territory and have that be recognized elsewhere. Nobody wants, I mean, if you pick up a laptop power supply adapter and look at the, look at the markings on it. You have FCC, you have CE, you have Singapore, you've got, I have one with like 15 or 20 different safety marks, safety and emissions marks on it. We don't want to do that again. So international harmonization is our desire and our intent, and the work that we've already done to start moving people towards coordinating this at an international level. That doesn't mean that the world adopts the US program. It's that everybody starts recognizing everybody else's programs as meeting requirements. Move on from there. Okay, what does it look like on the package? You'll see the mark at the bottom and a QR code. The QR code goes to an online label. There is consumer-friendly information available at the online site. This information includes things that consumer surveys have indicated consumers want to understand when they are involved in the cybersecurity of their products, when they are interested in finding out more. Some people will not be interested. Some people will recognize the mark and say, okay, good, I wanted that. Some people will want to look at the details and they'll want to know things like, am I going to get security updates? How long am I going to get security updates? So that information, the more detailed information, will be available online from the QR code.
Does the manufacturer choose what elements of cybersecurity the mark implies, or does the mark imply a known set?
There's two ways to take the question. The current proposal is that there will be cybersecurity requirements that you must meet in terms of functional requirements like encryption. And there will be the second part of the answer is that the information displayed, we are currently proposing that it be standardized so that everybody shows the same kind of information, just like you always see added sugars on a food label. And you can compare one breakfast cereal to another.
So there's a base level of cybersecurity, and then there's additional features which can be chosen from a set.
No, it's two different categories. One is the cybersecurity requirements or features is the same set for everybody.
Okay.
There's different ways to meet them, like you can use one kind of encryption or another, but then everybody has to encrypt data. The second thing I was trying to speak to is what transparency, what information are you giving the consumer about your cybersecurity program? And one of those might be how often you do security updates or how long you do security updates, rather. So that kind of information is being negotiated right now, what the label has to say online, but that should be consistent among all players. I'll mention also that there's more information that people think should be exposed, but that's more for like researchers, government people, technical folks, enterprise people. The more technical stuff will go on the second page. The first page is consumer friendly. Okay. Other questions? Okay. All right.
Yeah, sorry, one other question. So you mentioned that the contents of the label and what information is exposed in terms of transparency is still being worked on. What is the mechanism to provide feedback on that? Because I've worked in this area for years, and I have some specific feedback. I'd like to make sure I can provide it in a timely manner.
Sure. Could I ask your name and affiliation, please?
Yeah, so it's John Diamond, and previously I was the founder of the secure development program at HP, the largest technology company in the world, and have developed programs in that area, done this kind of thing, and so I've got quite a bit of experience in how what kind of information is important to understand the transparency of a secure development program, and that's and also, by the way, I contributed to the to a white paper that was sent by NIST to the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy that I think was part of the initiation of the cybersecurity labeling program in the first place. Because I pointed out the economic problem that was causing the lack of security was this lack of transparency.
So getting into
Mike, your audio is got a problem.
how's this now?
Better.
There was some I'm in our innovation house in DC. I'm not in my private office. So the question is, how do you provide feedback on this label information? And the first stage of this was NIST set certain expectations for information disclosure. The problem is that those expectations attempted to cover the broadest possible set of cases without filtering it down to specifically consumer products and what really needs to be done. So industry is doing a sort of filtering document. We're treating it as label design. And so it will be specific requirements for setting up the QR code. It's this box, everything inside this box, if you take out the trademark itself. Take out the shield and the US Cyber Trust Mark words. How big is this bounding box? What's the quiet space around the QR code? What QR code encryption or standard, what QR code standards are being used? And what's the information and layout of this page of online information? With that document in hand, the FCC will then make their own decisions, but it at least be an expression of what industry believes. Now that working group is, there is a working group. Let me caveat this. Nothing is final until the FCC makes their final decisions. Everyone will have the opportunity to comment to the FCC through their notice of proposed rulemaking. What I'm describing is CTA has had the benefit of cooperation and contribution from a number of companies. And one of the ways that that is formed is through our ANSI accredited working groups. We have our R14 Cybersecurity and Data Privacy Committee has a working group which is doing a specification for this particular picture, right? So what's the QR code details and what are the online label details? So John, in answer to your question, participating in that working group would be the appropriate way. Participation in CTA standards bodies isn't free. If you're a member of a CTA member organization, you can simply ask to be added. If your organization is not a CTA member company, then there is a participation fee scaled by size of organization, things like that. Contact me. My information will be at the end of the slide deck, or send an email to standards@cta.tech, and we can get you signed up. Otherwise, if you don't want to participate through that path, you can make your own direct comments to the FCC.
And when will the FCC issue the notice of proposed rulemaking and open up for comments?
It's a work in progress. They have a open meeting. They have their open meeting next week, I think, and then probably their staff will be tied up dealing with issues from that for 2 weeks after that. Then they'll turn their attention to this matter, negotiate the final NPRM, and vote on it. That could take 2 to 4 weeks or longer. So we're probably seeing this NPRM in mid to late August, but it could be longer. There's another meeting in September. It could happen at the meeting in September, but sometime between mid-August to mid-September is kind of the way to bed.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I said that there had to be criteria and that NIST had developed the criteria. This is the criteria document, is their core baseline, 8259. In the United States, there was a discussion on how to establish a minimum requirement for security for all products across the board. This has been going on for about 5 years now. Other nations have picked up this idea that there should be a minimum requirement for security. They've moved a little faster than the United States, but bottom line is that we have consumer specification now. As I say, it's not detailed or specific enough to write a program against, and so there's going to be another translation document. You can think of this as somebody sets the number and somebody else says, here's how to measure the number. So this document holds the numbers, and we're writing a separate document that proposes a way to assess whether or not somebody has met these criteria. That's also in a CTA working group 6. Again, email me or email standards@cta.tech if you'd like to get involved in that. But that framework will do things like take the requirement for device identification in this document and explain how to tell whether or not a scheme is adequately assessing the device. And that is true for all 17 technical requirements and all 30-some non-technical requirements in this document. This document is generally accepted by the US government and by industry in the private sector. I don't know of any significant debate that says the US should not use this document. So I think you can take this one as kind of, this is it. It is consistent with ETSI EN 303645 and with ANSI CTA 2088 as 2 of the standards for technical standards for cybersecurity for IoT devices. I think there's also a mapping going on right now for IEC 62443, the Industrial Internet of Things standard. Trust mechanisms. This is where the United States program is more ambitious than some of the others. If you look at what some places are requiring, some territories are requiring, they're only going with full third-party certification. If you look at Singapore, they have both self-declaration of conformity and full third-party certification, depending on what level, what tier you enter. But you also have proprietary certification, like Samsung works with SmartThings, Comcast works with Xfinity Home, and Apple HomeKit. And you have alliance certification, like the Connectivity Standards Alliance and their upcoming cybersecurity product certification program, and the IOXT group, the IOXT Alliance, and their cybersecurity program. So the US is looking to incorporate all of these. This is helpful for growing at scale and getting as many people involved as possible for a certain level of cybersecurity. This is just a sort of graphic picture of everything I've been talking about. On the left, the program anchor is the NIST criteria. On the right, the US have a US Cyber Trust mark that we've now seen. And in between, we have multiple schemes. This is something that trips up people who are familiar with certification programs. They assume that the US will have one scheme. The US is going to authorize schemes. And so there will be multiple schemes. There could be a dozen or more. They'll all have to meet the criteria, however. There's another element that's different in the US program than some of the programs that are out there. And that is that the US program requires that not just the hardware device, like in this case, the device is the connected speaker, but also the app that might be sold with it or might be paired with it to use the features, and any cloud services. So suppose we're actually talking about a video doorbell. The video doorbell comes with storage in the cloud hosted by the manufacturer. And it comes with an app to manage that storage, see the videos, reach out to the device, lock and unlock the door. All of that is in scope of the certification program. So that's a longer discussion, how we're integrating all of that, not just hardware. If you look at something like ISO IEC 27402, draft international standard for baseline cybersecurity for connected devices, that pretty much only deals with, last time I looked at it, only dealt with the hardware portion. So now we're looking at a lot more. We're also planning a national product registry. Here's a few of the things that it should have. It's a lot. It gets to be kind of a lot to do. So we're going to have to get started on that fairly quickly. All right, what's next? So I've mentioned the NPRM. We'll probably have 2 to 3 months to consider the notice of proposed rulemaking. This is a public consultation period. Then during that process, the private sector that has done so much work already will be commenting extensively about how the program should be run. CTA has all of the above.
Hello,
We have,
with yourself.
sorry?
That person went on mute, Mike, so
Thank
ignore that.
So we'll be commenting work that we have been collecting and discussions that we've been doing with private sector people. That includes manufacturers, test houses, consumer advocates, universities, industry alliances. We have a lot of stuff to put into the public record, and we expect many others will be contributing significantly as well. We'll get the final program rules. It may be as much as a year from now. I'm hoping it'll be a little bit less, but it will take them a while to go through all of this. Beyond. All right, so what else is going on? A similar program for industrial IoT is being launched. The U.S. Department of Energy, that's DOE, and the U.S. National Labs are going to be working on smart meters and power inverters to protect the grid from an IoT perspective. NIST has gone back to work now on a consumer router profile. We're now interested in talking with all the router people out there so we can do a similar convening of the private sector there. NIST will do that as well. NIST will do their public-private stakeholder process, and so there may be less of a role for us, since mostly what we've done is the administrative stuff. The U.S. State Department will work with FCC on harmonizing international standards and mutual recognition of the U.S. mark. This was announced by the White House at the same time NIST and CISA have their own negotiations going on. So while this is sort of like the official word, unofficially, there's going to be a lot of background discussion between the four entities in the U.S. government in order to have a single voice looking out at places like the EU, the UK, Singapore, and more. So that's the program, that's the status, and that's what we anticipate. We have a resource page at CTA. It's at cta.tech/cyber-labeling, labeling with one L. My contact information is there. I'm happy to answer questions by email. We are advocating for this. We're going to be talking about it at CES in a big way. Cybersecurity is probably going to have a bigger footprint at the Consumer Electronics Show in January 9th through 12th this year, I think. It's going to have a bigger presence at CES than we've ever had. We will have potentially pre-certified product that has been looked at to meet the NIST criteria, but doesn't have the FCC's official approval to use the mark because the FCC program rules won't be done in January. We'll have speakers. I encourage you, if you're interested in this topic, consider checking out CES. That is the US program. I'm happy to take questions. I'm not sure how much time I've used up, but I tried to stay to the mark. How are we doing? Do we have time for questions?
Yes, Mike, we certainly have time for questions. So if anyone would like to raise their hands, or they could go ahead and unmute themselves and go ahead and ask. And I think, David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I am working with a company that has what is a smart consumer device as it relates to homes? Because I'm thinking, is this applicable to everything that's consumers use? Or in our case, you know, a smart air filter that goes on the internet? Like, how do we get it approved?
No, that's a great question. So this is something that has been discussed, is how do you scope the program? So the first thing is it's a voluntary program, and I salute you for asking. We'd be happy to see you guys get your product up, get your company's product up there. The intent is for products that connect to the internet, that have computing capability, and have some kind of sensor or actuator. If it's a smart air filter that connects to the internet to say I need to be changed, for example, or that you can turn on or off, or that it senses air quality, those are all excellent reasons to consider this program, because it is a computing device that connects to the internet, it's vulnerable to malicious manipulation by bad actors. So look, pretty much anything except traditional IT equipment and smartphones qualifies. If it connects to the internet, it's pretty much suitable for this. Routers are out of scope for the moment until NIST puts together a profile for that. Their routers are a little bit different. But cameras, HVAC stuff, vacuum cleaners, smart vacuum cleaners that map the house and connect to the internet. Pretty much anything that goes into the home and connects to the internet is probably a cat.
Mike, we have a question that was put in the chat by Richard Rivera. How do they ensure a product does not become non-compliant over time?
And that's an excellent question. The certification rules and market surveillance rules aren't finalized, but the thinking seems to be that there will be a couple of things. One is that you'll need to do product updates for common vulnerabilities. That's a part of your vulnerability handling program. As the new vulnerabilities come up, you're going to need to deal with them and issue patches. Patchability is required, and visibility into these processes is required. You'll have to state how you handle all of this stuff so that it can be confirmed that you're able to handle these requirements. The National Product Registry will not carry products permanently. If they go out of compliance, it'll drop the product from the list or state that its status has changed or something. You'll be able to see it in the National Product Registry as well. The National Product Registry, I kind of glossed over this, but if you go to an e-commerce site like a Best Buy, Amazon, or Walmart, and look up a kind of product, like the baby monitor, and you should be able to filter based on the ones that have the label and the ones that don't. You should be able to see that status. So those e-commerce websites need this information. They're going to need an API to enter the database and solve that. So you should be able to see it when you go shopping, even, that product is no longer in compliance, no longer registered. Other questions?
Anyone else have questions for Mike? Now's your chance.
Could you repeat that URL you mentioned for the CTA cybersecurity labeling content?
Sure, it's cta.tech/cyber-labeling, and labeling has one L. And if anyone has trouble with any of this, you can either contact me directly at Bergman, Bergman, at cta.tech, or I'm sure the CABA staff would be happy to.
This is all on the screen, by the way.
Yeah, I'm assuming some people are on the audio. I'm also happy to field international inquiries. If someone here is representing from another territory than the United States, feel free to hook up with me and we'll be happy to have a conversation.
We'll also be circulating the minutes for today's meeting and presentation. We'll include Mike's contact information as well as the link that Mike had mentioned just moments ago.
Final opportunity for anyone to ask Mike a question, but he's not disappearing. Mike is accessible always through his office at the Consumer Technology Association.
Terrific. I want to thank everyone for your attention and for the time, and CABA staff for helping set this up. Marta, appreciate it. Greg and Ken, thank you so much. And like I said, shoot me an email.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate your time and we appreciate all the energy you've put into working with your association and with the federal agencies to move this forward. Marta and Greg and I have talked about taking the opportunity now to introduce, and for those that may not be aware, CABA has been publishing a journal for the life of its existence. This means for 30 years, CABA has published what was first called the CABA Quarterly, and then was rebranded as a 4-color magazine called iHomes and Buildings, and is now published online as the CABA Journal. The CABA Journal is available on the CABA website. Marta, if you're able, why don't you share the screen and go to the CABA website and show everyone where they can access the CABA Journal. Or I might be able to do that. I don't know if I have.
That's not a problem,
permission.
Ken. I can certainly share my screen here.
Well, while you're doing that, let me just tell everyone, the CABA Journal accepts articles that are timely, that are relevant for our industry of home or building automation, and provide useful information. So if you could just go back a step, Marta, show them you went to CABA.org, and then on the tabs you clicked on research.
That's right, under research and information, and you will be able to.
Under
go
there
down
is the
to
journal, and now
journal.
she's clicking to journal. And I just recently submitted an article I've been writing a few times a year for the journal. My most recent article was my perspective on the Consumer Electronics Show that Mike Bergman's organization mounts. The Consumer Electronics Show is been the largest trade show in the United States. And Marta is scanning through my article. The article is available to the world. Just go to CABA.org under research and journal, you'll find the article. I've also been doing a series of articles for the past 2 or 3 years on energy management. So my articles and the articles of the other submitters are there. Please, I'm encouraging you for any thoughtful topic, please write an article, and it'll be at the CABA Journal. These articles don't disappear. They're there for the world to use. So Marta was just showing an article I wrote on energy management.
And for anyone who would like to submit the proposal, they could submit it to my email here on screen. You could also submit it to Ken Wax as well, and he will communicate that to myself as well.
And Marta is very helpful in taking your Word document with images and putting it into the format for publication on the web, so you don't have to get involved in any of the technical details. Marta will handle that for you. She'll then give you the opportunity to preview the article before it goes live, correct any typos or layout issues.
That's correct.
So it's a well-oiled machine at CABA.
That's right, Ken.
So are the submissions from CABA members, or when we find something in a good white paper, we want to get it?
These are original papers. These aren't reproduced papers.
So that you'll cover the other things later. Okay, thanks.
Right. Now, let me see where we are in the agenda.
That would be me, Ken, talking about the podcast.
Oh, okay. Go right ahead.
Thanks, Ken. So we've been talking about this now for about a year, and it was a little over a year ago that CABA started the CABA podcast series on intelligent buildings and smart homes. It's meant to be a quarterly release, but we are now releasing monthly, just really depending on how much content we're receiving, and a lot of our members and some non-members are also contributing as well. So we're getting a lot of feedback, a lot of great feedback on that. You could be a guest, you could be a host. Your organization can do the entire episode. So you could have someone from your organization be the guest and the host. There's so many different ways to do this. You could also request a host from us, so we could pair you with someone who would interview, say, yourselves or anyone from your organization. So again, a lot of flexibility in how we do this. And so if you are interested, please reach out to me. My email is on screen. We could certainly meet and I could kind of go over the logistics of how this is all processed and done. And then we publish it to our Apple Podcasts and our Spotify account. And then we also promote it out to all of our members and non-members as well. So please, we are looking for some content on smart homes. We don't have too much of it. We know that the industry itself is a little bit smaller than our intelligent building side, but we would love to get someone from the smart home, connected home sector to talk about really any topic. It's really open for conversation. So please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to discuss, the potential of what we could do with these recordings. And with that, I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. If you do, feel free to unmute yourself. You could also type a question in the comment box or in the question section, and I will reach out to you. With that, I'm not sure if anyone wants to ask anything or if we can move on. All right, I think we can then move on to new business, Ken.
Thank you, Marta. I wanted to mention to everyone, as David alluded to, we do have other opportunities for public communication beside a journal article. You can write a short paper on a topic of interest to the home market. We have not had recent proposals for white papers. We did have we were publishing at a rate of 3 to 5 a year, but that has slowed because it depends on volunteers. We haven't had recent volunteers, but if you've got a burning desire to write a short white paper, like 5 to 10 pages, and would like help from the committee, I will set up a subcommittee to work with you to develop a white paper and publish it. The third opportunity is through the CABA Publication Review Committee. This is a committee that I've been chairing where we scour the industry for published papers and we review them for relevance to the CABA membership, either in the home space or the building space, or some papers straddle both. And we have the reviewer fill out a form that CABA has developed methodically over the past decade or so to provide a consistent review of papers published elsewhere as to how timely they are, how relevant they are, keywords in the paper so they can be searched easily. We have thousands of papers that have been scrutinized and reviewed and are available on the CABA website. We provide an incentive for you to do this in the form of a $25 credit to CABA services plus $25 US in cash. So there's a double incentive for you to I'm sure you're always reading papers in the trade press and and elsewhere. As you come across an article you think is relevant for CABA, just send a note to Marta, tell her about it, and she will then ask the volunteers on the Publication Review Committee to take a look at the article and see if it meets the criteria for publication by CABA. So plenty of opportunities to help CABA so CABA fulfills its mission of being a source of information for the industry. Any other new business anyone would like to raise?
Ken, this is David Katz, sorry. I don't know if anybody from the Green Building Initiative is on the call, but they are working on a new Green Globes program for net zero energy and net zero decarbonization. While their focus is on larger buildings as opposed to a single family home, if multi-res is one of those, and as I said, I just listened to the US DOE on how to get multi-res decarbonized. So there'll be a call for public input to these two new Green Globe certification programs, and maybe we can get CABA to send them out to our members to get some feedback.
All right, well, David, that's something you should work through with Greg and Marta.
Okay, thanks.
Any other new business by anyone? If not, I turn it back to Marta.
Thanks, Ken. I think, Greg, you'll be going over the announcements.
Oh yeah, I won't take too much time here, but I think the past event was here in May from the Connections Parks Associates Connected Homes Summit. I think the upcoming events, probably the most salient one for this group would be the CEDIA Expo in Denver in September 7th to 9th. We'll be likely having a booth at that event, and myself and likely our new staff, Kelly Box, will be attending there. And the other events here that are upcoming is an event, smart home event in Shanghai, and a couple of virtual Parks Associates events in the smart home space. That if you want to get information on any of these, we have all the events, upcoming events and some past events that are posted on our CABA webpage on the event section. We have endorsed events and upcoming events for both connected homes and intelligent buildings.
Greg, who is the new CABA person you mentioned?
Kelly Box. She's on the call now, which I think is her second week. So we have a new sort of membership services coordinator.
Hello, it's a pleasure to meet everybody.
Thank you.
All right, Ken, I think we can adjourn.
Well, as you can see on the slide, we have a tentative date for our next meeting, November 29th, towards the end of the year. So stay tuned, and please do provide your ideas for white papers and papers you found in the industry. And please, if you're so inclined, roll up your sleeves and contribute to the CABA Journal. Thank you all. Thanks to Mike Bergman for providing us insights into the new cybersecurity mark that will try to provide guidance as we select from the world of consumer electronics.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Thanks a lot.